Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Inga Cotton. I'm the founder and executive director of San Antonio Charter Moms, and these are Charter Moms Chats. And we're having a slightly delayed session of Charter Moms Chats to talk about Compass Rose Public Schools. And last week we published a post all about back to school and how they're taking the lessons that they learned from the past year, which had a lot of disruption, and they found out where students need extra support academically and for social emotional learning, and just what all they're doing to make this year even better. And so thank you so much for all that data for the guest post. And then we have like some of the great brains behind Compass Rose as our guests on Charter Moms Chats today. So I'm really proud to introduce, we have Ryane Burke, who's the executive director of Compass Rose Public Schools. So thank you, Ryane. And we also have Dr. Chae, also known as Chawanna Chambers, but I call her Dr. Chae. And so she is the, oh my gosh, I misplaced it. Please tell me your actual job title.
Chief
General Badass. Okay, Chief Academic Officer. Okay, but everyone just knows you as Dr. Chae, the badass. So. But we'll let Chief Academic Officer.
Does it all? Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, Ryane and Chae, thank you so much, and I'm really looking forward to digging into these questions about back to school, because the post is really informative. I encourage everybody to click through. Let me put the link. So sachartermoms.com is the blog, and there you can read the details about the academic plan, and it'll take you to the Compass Rose website. But here we get to kind of hear the stories behind, like why are you guys adapting this way? So I guess, okay, so my first question is kind of an academic question, so I'm going to send that over to Dr. Chae. So you're getting data now. It's like as students are coming back on campus, and you have a sense of what the past year and a half was like for them. What are you learning about in-person learning versus distance learning, and kind of what kind of support students need?
Sure. So, I mean, we're learning pretty much what most leaders are learning across the country right now, is that the distance learning approach was a bit difficult for some students. And so we're actually in the process right now of collecting data during our beginning of year assessments and those types of things. And so we know for a fact that we have a significant number of students who have unfinished learning, right, as a result of 18 months virtual or at home, and students who were dealing with a lot of things happening all at one time. And so we have already acknowledged that there's going to be some work that we have to do on the front end to support our students, to get them back to, acclimate them to being back on campus, being face-to-face, what those shifts are, what those changes are. But the way we have done that is through developing our intervention program, and developing a program in a way that our students don't get pulled out of their electives. They still get to keep those electives and those really great, exciting extra things and those experiences that we want them to have throughout the school day. And so our intervention time will be in addition to the regular electives and things that students have.
Well, good. Okay, Ryane, do you want to chime in? And also, there was a particular strategy that you talked about in the blog post, and that it had to do with universal reading growth. And I thought I was really inspired that there's such an ambitious goal, on top of what all is happening. So, okay.
Yeah, so I think that I would call that sort of our rallying cry. It's really a priority, right? So we have 3 organizational priorities this year, and that is our most pressing one for sure. It's something that, even though we didn't necessarily have, beginning of year data, we know that the data is going to tell us that a significant number of students have a significant amount of unfinished learning. That is something that we already know and can anticipate and have been planning toward for many, many months now, right? And so when we set this priority, we really thought about what were the things that we were already seeing during the past year, and what are the things that we want to implement during the school day to make sure every student is being both receiving instruction at their individual level, but also on grade level, right? Like we are not going to sacrifice on grade level instruction because we know that our students need access to instruction that is like challenging and appropriate and rigorous, right? But we also want to make sure that our students are experiencing instruction at their individual level so that they can make the amount of growth that they need to meet individual growth goals. So when we say universal reading growth, we really mean every student that walks through our doors is going to meet their individual reading growth goal this year. Right? That is our commitment. That is the thing that we are really like sort of rallying everyone around. And that includes, families, kids themselves, staff, our operations staff, right? Like if you talk to anybody, they should be able to tell you universal reading growth is our thing this year at Compass Rose. We're very excited about it. And I think that the way that we've designed our school day across our schools, it might look a little different, but every school has integrated much more intervention, like specific and sacred intervention time in their day to support students with meeting them at their individual level.
Okay. I think it's so important to have a goal and to know like what you're trying to get to and to talk about it, because like it doesn't work to just have a goal and then stick it back on the shelf, right? So the fact that like you're saying these goals out loud, right? Everyone's going to talk about it. No one's going to forget it. Like, and that means that everyone's on board, and the fact that you build it into the schedule about how it's going to work. But then, like Dr. Chae says, don't lose the electives or things that keep students engaged and that make each Compass Rose campus unique. So there were some other points in the blog post I wanted to touch on. Like you talk about like how, well, you mentioned this a moment ago that you want students to be doing things at their individual level, like what's the level that they can work at independently. But you also want to make sure that the goals are set high to make sure they're doing like on grade level work. And then you're wanting students to find, like in the post you talk about that they need to be in that sense of flow, or like where it's like it's the right difficulty level. So I was wondering if y'all could kind of comment on how that works. This is something I didn't understand when my kids were first starting school, or I didn't understand about like kind of how learning works. But I think it's an important concept that I think a lot of families, once they get it, they can like apply it to their own children and make sure their own children are learning optimally.
So I'm going to let you take this one. Flow is your thing.
So when we talk about flow, we want students to be exposed to the right amount of rigor and the right amount of interest, right? So that they can, we want them to get lost in their learning, right? If you think about an activity that you're doing and you look up and 5 hours have passed, right? Or 3 hours have passed, oh my gosh, where'd the time go? You were in your flow. Right. And so we want that to be the case for all of our students that come to our schools. To do that, right, like we talk about personalization, we talk about, the intervention and doing things at grade level and then on the students level, to include students who are above grade level, right? Students who are past where the expectation is, still working with them as well. We are leveraging blended learning to do that, right? So we know that though distance learning was very difficult for a lot of students, blended learning, when it works exceptionally well for students. So we are taking the great things about the online experience and the great things about the face-to-face experience and putting those together, which is where you get blended learning. And so we will be leveraging some ed tech tools to support with that unfinished learning that students need to focus on, and for advancing students who are ready to move on to something else within both the tier 1 instruction, that the on grade level piece, and then also within that tier 2 instruction, that second at bat, that type of time that's devoted specifically to the student level. But with that, it is also the piece of making sure that our curriculum is engaging, it is rigorous, and that it allows students to process a higher level of thinking and allows them to engage in conversations and engage in a type of learning and understanding that helps accelerate their learning, right? It pushes them forward quicker.
Well, that's what I think I'm so proud to have you on Chawanna Chambers Chats describing how you're doing things, because I want to set the bar higher for what schools need to be doing. And I feel like that's why I reached out to, this handful of schools, including Compass Rose, because I want these ideas to be ideas that spread. And I don't want people to just be God, I mean, it's been a really tough time, but we still, children are still growing and they still have their futures ahead of them, and we want to make sure that they're getting the best preparation that they need, and that's why these like good ideas need to spread. So that's why I'm really glad to have this blog post and to have you guys, on Charter Moms Chat, so we can highlight these ideas, because what you're talking about, like having the rigor and meeting the students at their interests, using blended learning the right way, so that you can have materials that are fine-tuned for where the students need to be. There are ways to do it right, and it's just not easy. So that's why I'm grateful for Compass Rose to that you guys are so committed to helping the students. So I guess this is sort of a culture question, so I'm going to send this one to Ryane. Some of the students, if they were in distance learning for a big chunk of last year, especially if they're very young children, they might not have ever really learned how to do school on campus, or like if it was a year and a half ago, they might have kind of forgotten how to do it, or or if last year was kindergarten, then they never did it, or they might not have done pre-K, whereas pre-COVID maybe the families would have put them in pre-K. And then there's like middle school to high school is a big transition, right? So there might be high schoolers who are going to 10th 11th grade and don't have that much experience managing what it's like being on a high school campus. So what are some of the sort of culture things that you're doing to help students be more comfortable on campus?
Yes, so we definitely have seen, and I can tell you my 3-year-old like wants snacks all day long, right? Like she's always hungry because she's used to like being able to like get a snack during the school day, but really truly things like, kids are exhausted, right? Like it's hard being back on like a full day of learning schedule. And like, yes, our day incorporates recess and electives and, time to socialize with friends and all of those things, but really making sure that we're responding to kids' needs throughout the day, right? So on the spot adjusting if a class needs a brain break, right? Or students need just a time to like rest their heads for a couple minutes, right? Because like getting back into all of this is hard for adults. It's like 100 million times harder for kids, because like they haven't had to do it so much in the past, right? So as they're adjusting back to all of these different schedules, especially those who've never been in a school setting before, right? Figuring out like what do we want this to look like for kids, and then like what do kids need, and we need to adjust, right? So it's being responsive, it's planning, but also being responsive to the needs of kids throughout the day. For the first really week of the school year, we focused primarily on building routines, building practice around those routines, so that students like know where to go when they come into the building. They feel really safe and they know exactly like where their classroom is and where their safe space is, like making sure that every student has food when they come into the building, and has a high quality start to their day where they're really like welcomed and just treated with like a friendly face and a smile, because like going into someone else's space after having been in just your own for so long, right? Like you have to get it to feel like your space again, right? And so we definitely want our teachers to create those spaces that feel like community, that feel like a home away from home for kids. And yes, it's school, and yes, like there's structure to it, but it's also like there's time to breathe in here. There's time to be just like kids together and all of that. So whether we're talking about kindergartners or 11th graders, to be totally honest, right, those things are sometimes equally important. And we want to make sure that our kids feel that sense of camaraderie with their classmates, but also feel a safe space with their homeroom teacher, their advisory teacher, sort of their home-based person, and then can really like, continue to build that throughout the year with that community of people that they spend the most time with. I think additionally, just like really, I think there are things that we do across our schools, like restorative practices, right? Circles, where students have the opportunity to engage with each other, to talk about how they're feeling, right? To like put real things on the table, are really core components of what we do as an organization. And they're really just like pillars of what we do, right? Routines, restoration, and relationships. I say it all the time, like there are 3 R's for culture across Compass Rose schools. And I think this year more than ever, like points to the need for those 3 things, right? Like we need to be in relationship with each other. We need to like understand and know the flow of routine so we can feel safe and comfortable at school. And like restoration, because like we're all going to mess up, especially after not having been in the game for so long. We're going to mess up. And so we have to figure out how to restore ourselves and each other.
Yeah. Yeah. Are there I'm thinking back about the blog post. I think are there additional things that y'all are doing to support, like as far as like hiring or how you're structuring the day? But I think bringing up about the restorative practices and the circles, I think those are really important.
For sure. Yeah. So across our schools, right, like, yes, I think like having specific personnel assigned to like social emotional learning, which we certainly have at our larger schools, right? Like we have specific personnel who have like the title of social emotional counselor, but across all of our schools, right, we have leadership team members, we have teachers who know that their role expands far beyond like teaching, right? Like that's always the case, right? Teachers are counselors, teachers are all of those things. And so making sure that everybody sort of understands that the scope of our role, right, is to be a support for all of our students, you know, regardless of official title. And also just like leveraging community resources, right? Leveraging developing a relationship with communities and schools and making sure that we're having folks in our classrooms who can support the needs of students when they extend sort of beyond the reach of a classroom teacher.
Yeah, yeah. There are kind of a couple of points I want to touch on that have to do with, well, sort of growth at Compass Rose, but also sort of context of like what we're living through, and that it's interesting how that comes together because so I want to specifically mention the Compass Rose Journey campus that has a public health focus, which I know you guys were planning that even before the pandemic happened.
Timely, yes.
Yeah, but it's amazing. And then another aspect of what's happening in our world is that the pandemic affects different racial and ethnic groups differently, and that Compass Rose Public Schools serves a predominantly Black and Hispanic student body, and those groups have been more severely impacted by the pandemic. So I wanted to kind of open this up with, and you guys touch on this in the blog post, and but just talk about like how, like, what are all these moving pieces, like how do you support students who in their family or their extended family are experiencing loss or trauma or experiencing just different impacts from the pandemic than the more privileged parts of San Antonio, and how does this play into like Compass Rose Journey having a public health focus, and how you want the students coming through that program to eventually serve the community in a better way?
Sure. I mean, I think the first answer is like we can never be doing enough. There's no extent of what we or any school could do to fully support and respond to like the very real trauma of both this pandemic and other ongoing pandemics of like racial oppression that are happening in across our country, across like our communities. And so just thinking about our job as a school is to make sure that we're doing everything possible to break down barriers. Like that is like our commitment as an anti-racist organization, set of schools, right? We want to make sure that, and like to me, in this instance, specifically related to COVID, it means we're going to do things like we're going to continue to mandate masks, right? Like we're going to continue to keep our people safe, even when that may not necessarily be something that is like the norm and everywhere. And so we believe in creating the safest possible environment for our kids because we know that the pandemic has impacted our communities in very different ways, like you said, Inga. And so like we take that responsibility very, very seriously, and we know that creating those safe, like physically safe spaces is one of the ways that we can help our kids like feel good and our families feel good about sending their kids back to in-person learning, which in and of itself is overcoming that barrier, right, of like distance learning, having created it more inequities, and allowing our kids to be and experience and feel more of a sense of safety through some of those like protocols that we are enforcing and like have in place. And then I think the Compass Rose Journey piece in particular, yes, we had already had it in mind pre-COVID, but know that like public health has been a piece of crisis for like a long time, right? Like this is nothing that is new. And so thinking about the public health focus at Journey, it's about health of the individual, but it's also about health of the community and making sure that we are both studying and looking inward and figuring out how to take care of like myself, my community, my classroom. And how does that then expand to this more like global public health idea, right? The study of disease and the spread of disease across populations over time, right? And so really, really cool stuff that's going on at Compass Rose Journey, rooted in a nature-based approach. So we are heavily in the process of finishing up our outdoor classrooms at Journey, creating lots of really cool outdoor spaces for kids where they can really just like learn in nature, learn through nature, right? Like experience public health in a very real way. Being outside in and of itself is one of the ways that like we increase our own like personal physical health. And so just all of us learning how to like be in the outdoors and it to be a good thing and something that actually leads to increased health and wellness. So just very excited about the work that's going on at Compass Rose Journey, the team that's leading the charge there. You know, we have folks on campus on the site who are like getting their master's in public health, right? Like learning like the real and supposedly it is the I hope I'm not wrong in saying this, like the only elementary public health program that exists in Texas and maybe in the country. So it's like a very, very unique and I just think an opportunity for our kids in, you know, the larger Windcrest community.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. There's so many elements going on. That's why it was hard to like come up with a title for this post because the occasion is back to school, right? And I kind of jumped on the universal reading growth goal as like that really resonated with me. But there's so much in it because Compass Rose Journey, the public health focus, understanding what's happening with the pandemic. I guess Ryane, can you kind of comment more on like sort of safety protocols? Like, I mean, you talked about how important it is to keep students safe on campus so that they, things like having the mask mandate so that they feel safe when they're on campus, because that's part of the barrier, right? It's like if distance learning was overall less effective, then what you want to do is rebuild trust, get students back on campus, but once they're there, keep them safe.
For sure. Yeah, I think there's a couple initiatives that I think are maybe unique to Compass Rose, but one of course we are mandating masks continuously across all of our campuses. That goes for staff and for students. We are also doing weekly COVID testing, so we're doing asymptomatic testing that is mandatory for all of our staff across all of our schools. Happens every single Monday, and then any student or family member who would like to opt in is also welcome to opt in. And so we've seen families really utilize that resource as well. So students are able to, it's like a really easy sign up process and students can engage in weekly asymptomatic testing. We also have just a COVID response protocol. So in terms of like very clear and transparent notification to families, we always want to make sure that our families are very aware of what's going on campus. If there is a positive case, we are going to very transparently share that. We have a very public-facing COVID case dashboard that we feel, is super important for our families to be in the loop about, our staff members to be in the loop about. If there are symptomatic or there are suspected cases, on campus, we are able to, do rapid testing, immediately identify close contacts. We're doing the whole contact tracing protocol. And then, that's sort of above and beyond sort of all just the regular like cleaning practices, distancing when possible, doing all of those pieces that like we just know are like important. But I think those are sort of something that maybe set us apart from what other schools might be doing.
Yeah. I'm really glad that you get to you're communicating that in the blog post and here, because it's a question that's coming up a lot in I'm going to plug my Facebook group. There's been a lot of discussion about safety and, especially families, if we have kids who are, too young to be vaccinated yet. And we want to know what the procedures are on campus. And there's so much confusion in the political environment about, mixed messages from the state or local level. And it's created a challenging situation for schools. And I think it shows that Compass Rose has really stepped up and shown leadership to, that go take extra steps to keep students safe. And that serves the learning goal of like, because you want kids to be and staff to all be healthy and on campus and learning and in the right frame of mind, so that they're not worried about their safety. Instead they can, find their flow, right? Like, like Chae said, they can, lose themselves in something that they're learning about and find the things that they're passionate about, because that's what's going to unlock, a bright future for them. Okay, so I feel like I haven't asked Chae enough like sort of academic type questions, but I was like, are there other things about academically what's going on this year that you want to highlight?
I am super excited about our teachers and their commitment to becoming like the content experts and the pedagogical experts that we know all of us want to be. And so I think between that and really like owning blended learning as a network and getting really good at it, right? And learning how to be data informed without being overwhelmed by the amount of data that you receive. I think that's going to be something that we see wonderful results from. Again, like our curriculum, we've gone through this process of trying to find rigorous curriculum and make adjustments to it. So a lot of our curriculum are things that we have also adjusted ourselves to ensure that they meet our students' needs. I'm very excited about the types of texts that our students have access to and can read, that our students will see themselves in their curriculum every day. I think that is extremely critical as a parent of a Compass Rose child. I think it's extremely important. I have a vested interest, right? I say I have an interest in making sure we do this right, but I have a really like vested interest because my 8th grader is here, right? And has been here for 2 years. And I was actually just telling Paul, like I was looking at his MAP growth scores over the years and like jumps, since being here as a 6th grader into where he is now as an 8th grader in terms of his achievement. And so, I think it's really important that we focus on making sure that our children feel safe, both physically, but also emotionally and intellectually, where they can have an opportunity to share a perspective that might be different from someone else, but also feel comfortable being challenged, because that's a big piece here, right? It's like making sure that our children know how to identify what they're feeling, what they think, and then how to support that with evidence and those types of things. So if I had to talk about academics, like that's what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about how we're creating, children who will create their own legacies, how we are creating children who will be advocates for themselves and for others, right? When they leave Compass Rose, we know that they are going to be in their communities and they're going to make sure that whatever their families need, whatever their communities need, that they have it.
Yeah, that is so inspiring. I'm like, yay! I mean, yeah, I really mean it. Because it's like I've been trying to figure out how to express this, but like I need to write a commentary about it. But like I feel like that like we can't let all the stress and trauma of the pandemic stop us from, like, we still have to have lofty goals, right? And that means like like Chae, you're talking about academically, like you want kids to do higher order thinking, and you want them to have like the course material still needs to be rigorous, and so then it's like Ryane was talking about, like having the social emotional support and having like circles, and just make sure the teachers know, like kind of read the room, and if everyone just needs a little break, take a break, but it's bringing all those elements together of like having relationships and being sensitive to how the students are feeling, but also having the really high academic goals. And I think that's that's what I see Compass Rose creating, and that's what's so exciting to me. So, okay, I want to be sure we're running a little low on time. I always try to wrap these up at about a half-hour mark, but I want to make sure that the families who are tuning in, understand, like, I hope they like what they're hearing about Compass Rose, and that they want to learn more, particularly about the Compass Rose Journey campus. That's the new one in the Windcrest area. So, Ryane, do you want to take this part to kind of explain how families can learn more?
Sure. Okay. Yes, we are continuing to enroll students across grades K through 11, and there are some select availabilities across our campuses, and certainly welcome families to, of course, visit our website. And I think that our Facebook page, our social media, is a pretty informative spot to go as well. Each of our campuses has their own Facebook page, so we have Compass Rose Legacy, we have Compass Rose Ingenuity, and Compass Rose Journey, and families are absolutely welcome to contact us via our social media, via our Facebook Messenger. One of the things that's been really impactful for families is for them to just come in and tour our spaces. So we were able to launch a great set of quality tours over the summer, and those are continuing. So families can come in, they can see the space for themselves. really just like be able to walk through some of our safety protocols themselves as well, and just be able to, see what's going on campus and see if it's the right fit for them and their family, because ultimately the choice is up to the family, and we want to just be a great quality option for our families so that they can have access to what's going on in our buildings. So welcome them to reach out, call us, message us, visit us at our website.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to put the website up on the screen again, compassrosepublicschools.org. And then I'm going to highlight the Compass Rose Journey campus in particular. And there's families who want to reach that campus. There's a phone number. It's 210-850-2507. And all the contact info is on the website. And then, like Ryane said, Compass Rose is very active on social media. Looking at those pages gives you a great sense of like what's happening on campus. And but also like Ryane said, actually getting to tour campus and just get the vibe and see the safety protocols for yourself. It can give you a sense of like, yes, I could see my kids at Compass Rose. I think seeing it for yourself is really important. So. Okay. Well, do y'all have any kind of? I want to give each of you a chance to offer kind of closing thoughts. How about Ryane and then Chae?
Oh gosh, that's a lot of pressure. No, I just want to say thank you to you, Inga, for all the good work that you're doing to showcase all of the options that are available to families. I think this is just always like a really humbling opportunity for us to have the time to sit and talk with you for a few minutes. So hopefully we'll get to do it even more often throughout the year. I know you have a lot of good things planned, but yeah, just again, would just reach out, families, if you're interested in getting more information. If you just want to chat with somebody, or if you want to come in and see us, please don't hesitate. Even if you're not sure if it might be the right option, we'd welcome you to come by and visit us.
Okay. Chae, you want to close this out?
Oh,
final thoughts?
man.
Any Layla-isms you want to share?
Oh my gosh, listen, that child of mine. No, I want to appreciate you, Inga, for the work that you do here in San Antonio, especially as a native San Antonian. I really do appreciate the work that you do to make sure that families know and are informed about all of the different options that are available to them. And I mean, I guess the only thing I would end on is that I would say, again, as a parent of a Compass Rose child, I have been incredibly grateful for the teachers that have impacted my child Jeremiah, and then also just for being able to see so many of our staff members bring their kids. Everybody's like walking into the building together. It's a really warm place to be. And so I'm very, very excited and very blessed to be here because it's just incredible, the people that we have and the work that we're doing. So.
Yeah, well, that's a great endorsement. If your son, he's an extraordinary kid with huge potential, and I'm really glad to hear that he's able to blossom at Compass Rose, because like he's one of those kids. He's gonna go far. I'm sure he pushes his teachers a little bit, and it sounds like they're up for it. So
they need to push him too.
Good deal. Okay. Well, it's been great connecting with you guys. I look forward. I want to come see these outdoor spaces at Compass Rose Journey, but I have to get over my little COVID issue here. So, but I will be back in action soon, and it's great to talk.
Thank you so much, Inga. We'll talk soon.
Okay. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.